Well, good evening, everybody. How are you all doing? So, welcome to Lepanto Institute's anchor team. As you know, Mr. Hitchborn is not here this week. Let's start out with a quick Hail Mary. In nomine Patri, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostri. Amen. Our Lady of Victory, pray for us. In nomine Patri, Filii, Spiritus Sancti. Amen. All right, so how is everybody? First of all, Hitch has the day off, and I would like to make just a few quick points about that. Just since I've known the guy, I don't think he's taken a day off. So I'm happy to do this for him. So thanks for your support by showing up tonight. Second, this will annoy him, but I'm going to do it anyway. Been on the Lepanto board for over a year, and I've worked closely with the guy for the last 7 months. Spent a week at his house, prayed the rosary with his family. Hitchborns are great folks. I get this question a lot from people. Hey, what's this guy like? And the guy you see on the show, that's exactly who he is. He's a faithful Catholic guy with a wonderful wife and children who works very long hours to fight the bad guys. And by the way, he's been incredibly patient with me. So I just thought it was really important to say that because I don't think I'll have another chance. He might yell at me. So please just understand your support of Lepanto in both prayers and donations is the engine that allows us to engage in this vital defense of the faith. Your support's greatly appreciated. So let's give Hitch a well-deserved day off. And if something goes horribly wrong, let's just lie to him and pretend nothing happened. Okay, moving along. A couple of updates. Thanks all you guys for watching General Quarters. On Monday, we have a show at 7 p.m. with Father Stephen Imbarato. He is one of the founders of the first National Men's March Against Abortion in Washington, D.C. on June 12th. Now, both Hitch and I are going to be there. So if you have time, check out the show at 7 o'clock. And please persuade the men in your life, your family, to watch it, or more importantly, to show up in Washington, D.C. and defend innocent life from slaughter. Men are equally, or maybe even more, responsible for this national atrocity. We're hoping this turns into a movement. So let's get at it. I got to tell you, tonight we have a very interesting show. We have with us a gentleman I've known for many years by the name of John Goss. First, some relevant background on John. He is an accomplished athlete in wrestling, martial arts, and he received a full scholarship for football to an elite New England college. He's a husband, father, and he makes his living in sales. By all accounts, he's a very successful young man. Now, why is he here? Because he's exactly the kind of guy who your local parish would tap to step into as an instructor or mentor to young people in any number of leadership or teaching positions. His local parish did just that. They approached John to be a mentor to the young people of the parish in a life teen program as a mentor, more of a teacher actually, but he will go into that in detail. But you see, John fits the role perfectly. He's exactly the kind of guy you would want around your teenagers. He's an accomplished athlete, good student, great appearance, all that stuff. Now, the reason John's here tonight is because he's about to tell you what that youthful instruction looks like. And trust me when I tell you, the program from his parish and archdiocese that he was involved in teaching, that is, and this is really highly important to mention, that is USCCB approved. It is certainly not Catholic. In actuality, it is political ideology, and it's leftist, democratic political ideology. Now, I know all about John firsthand because I'm his uncle. He's the kind of guy that I encourage to be around my own daughter, and I always have since she was born. Further, I just want to mention his mom, my sister, is a member of the anchor team. She's here every Friday night, very strong supporter of the Lepanto Institute. Johnny, first, he has a demanding career, wonderful wife, and a new child. Time is precious, given his station in life. So I just want to thank you for being here. And ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Goss. Hang on a second. I think I have your mic off, and there you go. Johnny, say hi to the folks.
Hi, everybody. Hey, Uncle Jimmy. Thanks for saying all those nice things about me.
It's true. No, you're definitely the kind of guy. I think it's really important to say that. I meant every word of it. You know how much I love talking to you, but you really have a lot to bring to the table tonight, and I appreciate you taking the time. Why don't you start out? Tell us a little bit about how they approached you to go into this program, and then please tell me that story you told me the other day.
All right, yeah. So it's our local place where my wife and I got married. And the deacon is actually sort of related to my wife through marriage of and a death in the family, like through her grandfather, I think. But so anyway, he approached us and he wanted us to be part of this Life Team program. So we did it for about 3 years. But like we talked about, I think the reason why I'm on the show is the program was not necessarily about bringing people closer to God and to the faith. It was about that, but there was a lot of political infusion into the program, specifically this past year, where the theme of the year was racism. And when I heard that, on the surface, the church, our faith, we've got a lot to say about the evils of racism. I think we can argue that the reason why the majority of the Western world thinks racism is wrong is because of Christianity. It's because of Catholicism. So I thought we had some good things to say there, but knowing the political background of the deacon and the other people that are part of the program, I figured it was going to go off the rails pretty quickly, and it did.
Can you tell us about because I love this story, the actual video. Can you tell us that story?
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, there's a video that went viral, and I just want to preface this by saying, the video that I'm going to talk about that made its way into our first lesson in Life Team was actually not part of the official USCCB Life Team program. Although that program itself did include lessons on microaggressions and privilege and things like that. Right. But this is a video that went viral that they were planning on showing to the kids. And so multiple people, if you go on YouTube, you've probably seen this video before, but it's a cartoon. And it goes through the arguments for systemic racism and the reason why there are disparities between the races today that are associated with systemic racism. And so, they show the video to the core members. I'm one of the core members, the mentors. They show this video and it's got a watermark in the corner. And, I just raise my hand and I go, hey guys, the watermark in the corner, it's the company that made the video. If you click on their website, there's a picture of Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren. There's Michael Moore on there. They describe themselves as progressives. If we're going to be trying to stay like apolitical, just talk about racism and the evils of racism and how, we approach that from our faith. I don't think this video applies. I think this video is kind of breaking that sort of like rule that we set forth. Anyway, so they say they're not going to show the video, and then the deacon decides he's going to give a talk instead.
They actually, because of your intervention, they were appeasing
you.
Not going to show the video, right?
Yeah. I annoyed them many times after this, but anyway, so this is the first lesson of the year, and the deacon gets up there, and okay, before I criticize the deacon, I just have to say this: he's a very giving man. I think he's fostered like 100 kids in his lifetime. He's always there at the church doing whatever they need. But I think he's misguided, and I think he's got a lot of pride that prevented him from listening or seeing any alternative perspective. And so he got up there and he started talking to the kids about systemic racism. And the example he gave was, there are schools, and so he's just pulling this right out of the video and then applying it to our current scenario. Right. Yeah. So he goes, so, there are reasons why different races, are disadvantaged, and redlining and schools are in certain areas don't get as much money as other schools. And so the children from those schools and the predominantly minorities are held back. So, for example, we're in Massachusetts, and he uses Worcester, the city of Worcester. I want to say it's the second largest city in New England. I think it is. He uses the city of Worcester as an example, and Holden, which is just north of Worcester. He goes, yeah, so Worcester, there are a lot of minorities in Worcester, and there's a lot of poor people in Worcester. So they don't really have a lot of tax revenue to put into the school system. And so they don't have as many resources for those kids. So they don't do as well on standardized tests, as opposed to, let's say, Holden. Holden, lots of money, wealthy families. The school system has plenty of access to money, And so, one of the ways that we can do that is fix that is through our vote. So we can use our vote to redistribute that money from the wealthier communities to the city. And I just, oh God, my blood was boiling.
Right.
So, I'm on my phone, and I already know this. Holden spends less money per student in the school system than Worcester does. So just objectively, the example he gave, forget about bringing in politics. He was just wrong.
Right.
So I text them the data. It's available. I send it to him and I go, hey, I don't think many of the parents here are sending their kids to this Life Team program to learn about how they should be voting. I'm pretty sure they're sending their kids to you to learn about theology and the faith. Also, it appears as though the example that you gave is absolutely wrong, and there might actually not be a link between funding and the dollars per student and how well they do in school. Maybe the link has to do with, I don't know, the integrity of the families in Holden and how well the children are supported by their parents,
or how many dads are home.
Exactly. And by the way, that's something that we can help with. That's something that we do. That's like our thing, right?
Did you see? That's our thing. Did you see? Did you see any actual catechesis going on? I mean, the entire time you were there. In other words, other than social, was it pretty much the focus was social justice, was Catholicism?
Well, the first 4 lessons were no catechesis. It was all the next class was they were going to show a video from the Life Team program.
Right.
Approved by USCCB. There's this video where it's a panel of kids sitting around talking about microaggressions. Oh. I'm not gonna go into that. You'd have to watch the video for us to parse it and take it apart. But
sure, I'll put it in the show notes.
Flawed. If you can post the film, it's just. It's blending people who have poor etiquette, and then, poor etiquette is something that offends people. And then they're slapping the term microaggression on it so that they can turn someone's language into like a violent act that theoretically, a violent act and aggression towards somebody is illegal, right? So It's just this method for taking speech that someone might not like, that's poor etiquette, asking somebody about some total stranger that you just met, asking them about, can you speak a certain language because you look a certain way? I wouldn't necessarily do that. I think that's poor etiquette. I would get to know someone first before I ask those kind of questions. But what was this doing in the Life Team program? And the kids knew that too. That at the end of every Life Team session, we would sit down after the kids were all dismissed, and the deacon and the youth minister would ask, okay, so, hey, how did it go tonight? How did it go with the kids? And almost every time, multiple groups, multiple core members would say, oh, the kids in my group, because we break out into little groups. I would have a group of kids, and they would say, yeah, my kids just keep going. I don't think we should be talking about it. It's too political. And I tried to explain to them that this is very much in line with like what we do here in the church or something like that. And all I kept saying was, hey guys, maybe we should listen to the kids, because I kind of agree with them, and I think they're right. So.
Like to put it, there's another way to put it. I mean, the purpose of the program was political indoctrination.
Yeah, it was. It was standing on to me, what I saw was people using the platform of the church, that people had like, this is just how this is why it got to me on my blood boil. It's just, to me, I saw people standing on the platform of the Catholic Church, 2,000 years old, like lots of tradition, and using that platform for their own personal agenda, and not necessarily the agenda that we all agree on. Like there's so many there are so many things for these kids to know. But the thing about these like progressives is they want your kids, and they're going to go to any institution in order to get to your kids, and there is no safe place. So, I kind of went into this scenario naively 3 years ago, and I was thinking, oh, this is great. I'm going to get involved. I'll mentor some kids. But then I realized that like there was an alternative agenda with the people that had sort of, taken over this part of our institution. So part of the reason why I wanted to come on the show tonight is just to let everyone know that there is no safe place.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the church.
You can't trust anybody anymore, whether it's like the church or your schools. The progressives are everywhere, and they don't respect anyone other than them, and they're going for your kids.
Yeah, and if you saw the comment there from Joanna Byrne, that exactly. I mean, that's they're going for your kids. And one of the things I wanted to point out to you, John, just to put this all in context. I've spoken to you, and I've spoken to a lot of people around the country. This is not. You're not an anomaly. Okay, your experience here. And again, remember, this is U.S. CCB approved material in terms of microaggressions and the other things, and the whole idea is that, and the way to change this, right? There's 2 points here. The way to change this is to vote, and we all know what they're pushing now. And what's particularly evil about this is that, and this is just a lot of the folks at home have heard this, but just it's worth repeating for our own edification. There was a guy by the name of Cardinal Bernardine in Chicago, right? And he came up with this thing called the seamless garment theory. All right, now what does this mean? So yes, of course, we are against abortion, but we are, it's actually very diabolical. We're concerned with the whole man. So he conflated abortion with a guy having a job and being able to support his family, right? You get the diabolical kind of twist on that. So the whole idea is the hierarchy, and this is some of the great work that Michael Hitchborn has done as to where your money that you donate to church, where it's actually going. I mean, it's really becoming evident, and this is just your story is one part of it. They're becoming sort of a front for the Democratic Party, and that's why. And you think about it, John, and that's why guys like Father James Altman was just fired, because he was a guy who stood up and said, "You cannot be a Democrat and a Catholic. End of story. I don't want to hear it." Yeah. And it's like, and somebody, and again, which is really cool about somebody like yourself. Who come, take the time to come on the show. You're on the front lines, I mean, and frankly, I bet you surprised them. I mean, you must tell me about that. I mean, they must have been like, who's this guy?
Yeah. So the two of them eventually called me in to like speak privately. So we're supposed to have 4 sessions on race, which was really 4 sessions on critical race theory. That's what it was.
Sure.
About. And I was giving them such a hard time that they called me in after the second one and started to confront me about my perspective. I actually didn't. Hey, hi, Mom.
Joan Goss's comment there.
I can't help it. Okay.
I don't blame you. I got one more for you. This is a great comment from Lisa Evers. How about that one? How about a microaggression punch in the face?
Yeah, exactly. That's how I felt. But so like they kept they called me into the office and actually, this was bad. So the deacon, rather than calling me to like confront me about my pushback, he called my wife.
Are you kidding?
I'm not kidding. And she goes, talk to John.
She didn't put up with that nonsense for
no. She goes. I'm with my husband 100%.
Are you serious?
You can talk with him. Okay. Yeah. So they pulled me in the office. We had a sidebar conversation, but ultimately out of the 4 sessions, they cut it down to 3, and then they ended after 3. So I had a little mini victory there. But I'll just tell you what. For the rest of the year, it was icy. I don't think I'm going to be invited back next year. So
drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. So essentially, well, and what I'll say is, I have another message for your audience. Okay, I want to say there was maybe like 8 core members, eight people like me that were not like the deacon and the youth minister, and half of them, maybe 4 of them, approached me privately to say, "Hey, I really appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate what you're saying. And thank you. I think it's good." And at the time, like I don't do this. I got a job. I got other things to worry about. And I was like, "Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate. It's nice to know that I'm not the only one doing this." And in hindsight, I'm thinking, "Hey guys, listen. Like I just got axed, and maybe if you had stood up and said something when I was saying something, maybe we could have, changed the program. Oh. And I wouldn't have been out on an island by myself. Now I'm out of the program, and guess who you're stuck with? now you're stuck. So like the lesson I learned, if I were to do it all over again, is I would have said thank you to the people that approached me privately, and I would have said you have an obligation. If you think it's right, you have an obligation to voice your opinion with me. Don't leave me hanging. Like, you have to say something, otherwise we lose.
That's right.
And ultimately, like, I think we do lose. In that parish, they're going to continue doing what they're doing, and I'm not going to be there to speak up next year.
Well, this is these are Saul Alinsky tactics, right? And the concept is that a well-organized small minority will beat an unorganized majority every time if they have enough energy, right?
Yeah.
So the reality is that the other four people, and if you think about it, we all know the mindset here. It's like, all right, they asked me to do this at the church. I'm going to do my duty, and then you get there and you find out these guys are shills for Marxism, actually, in a way.
Yeah.
And so now all of a sudden you got guys going, hey, John, I just want you to know I'm with you, but they all have mortgages and children at home as well, and they all have things to take care of. And this is how these guys have operated for so long. And they just didn't count. And that's why I really appreciate coming on the show. They didn't count on you pushing back.
No. And it wasn't fun. I mean, I didn't really enjoy it. I just,
I know you. You don't enjoy conflict, but you have a sense of duty and right and wrong.
Yeah. And also the people that were there, like the adults, like the people who like had, careers and stuff like that. Cause, you said at the beginning of the show that they wanted to attract someone like me. And usually it's hard to get people that are young professionals that, have real careers, like real responsibilities.
Sure.
It's hard to get those people to sacrifice like Sunday night for a couple hours, and also a couple hours like on a weeknight, especially when you have kids or something like that. It's hard to get somebody to do that. So like the only people that are going to sign up are like young people that have nothing going on, in which case maybe you don't necessarily want them. Okay, so
that's a good point.
So you got those.
Just defined who's burning down Minneapolis and Portland, by the way, but that's another story.
Yeah, you got plenty of time.
They're burning down Portland because they don't have to get up in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, and then on the flip side, you've got like really old people or parents of kids, and so like a couple of the people that were in there, they're cowardly. Thank you, Joanne, I appreciate it. But like the parents of the kids, like, they were really there watching their kids. Like, and one of them in particular, he was one of the guys that came and said, like, thank you for speaking up. And part of the reason why I'm here is because I figured this was going on. And I wanted to, monitor my son during it. And I was like, okay, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
Well, you can get my bag next time.
Right.
But, so how long does this show go on for?
We're going for an hour.
Okay. All right.
So keep going. By the way, real quick, the Lee Sever says, I'm thinking you could grab the other four folks, go back again as a group and show strength against this BS, which means don't give up. I think at least that's a great comment. I love it. Just something to think about, John. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks, Lisa. Hey, where's Lisa from? Do you like?
Lisa, where are you from? Anyway, actually, no. It's funny. I feel like I know these people. I'm not sure where Lisa. Lisa, would you mind saying where you're from, if you wouldn't mind?
I just saw, when you're starting the show, you're like, oh, Michigan. I think you said Europe somewhere.
Yeah,
cool.
we
a lot of people on here.
Some people say when they get on, greetings from Ireland or something like that. So I don't really know. So Lisa Evers, if you have a second, just let us know where you're from, and I'll repeat it, Johnny, when you go.
Thanks, Lisa.
She's from Jacksonville, Florida.
Ah, cool.
There you go. So
not too far from you. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
she has a daughter in Sterling, Princeton, Massachusetts, by the way, which is near you.
Not far at all. Yeah, Sterling.
Well, world there, buddy.
Beautiful up there. Yeah. Davis Farmland. My mother was there with my son the other day, and it's in Sterling. Yeah. Goats and whatever. People didn't sign up for that story. I've got so.
Go ahead.
All right. So I just wanted to say, if anyone else is out there and they have the opportunity to join these programs, it's really worthwhile. I mean, there's a reason why progressives are after your kids. It's because they're young, impressionable, and they'll have their opinions for a very long time if they can change their minds. So anyway, if you can get into those programs, it actually is really rewarding because the kids are hungry.
Wow.
Like, yeah, they live in a secular atheist world. And a lot of them have like at least one parent. The reason why they're there is they have at least one parent. So like you've got like a big gamut of kids. You've got some kids that are atheists and they're just there because their mom told them they had to go because their mom's Catholic, but their father doesn't go to church, doesn't like is just vocal about disbelief, right? Yes. So you get those kind of kids, and you get the other kind of kids where like devout Catholic parents, and the kids are like they'll know more than I do, right? But essentially, like a lot of the kids, especially the Catholic ones, are hungry because what they kind of want is they want to be in an environment where they're not surrounded by secular atheists and they can actually like talk to somebody else about their faith. And then you've got the other kids that are atheists and they like, they have this youthful pride and they enjoy getting into conversation. And I just really enjoy getting into with them, but like giving them tools that they can bring to their secular atheist world. And so
go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so, when we were talking before the show, we talked about, you can't make biblical authoritative arguments to a secular atheist.
Exactly. You know what? If I could start on that for a second, a couple times, when I do these shows, I've had a couple serious questions. My daughter is a Marxist voting for Bernie Sanders. How do I get her to not do that? So here's the thing. This is why I love what you just said. The reason your daughter is a Marxist and voting for Bernie Sanders is because you don't read and you don't do the work to tell her this as she's growing up. Now, you know my daughter, and if she was a Marxist, she certainly would have gotten the other opinion about 1 million times. It could have written it, and thankfully she's not. But the point is, right? This is again, this is what the left, and I was hoping you would speak to this directly. This is what the left counts on. Okay, mom and dad at home aren't taking the time to talk about anything intellectual or analytical, right? If they're doing anything at all, they're dumping them off at school and church. Let them do it, right? Yeah. And you've just outlined brilliantly that that's not happening. So my point is, and this is why I was hoping you talk about, because you're a perfect sort of a microcosm example of this idea. If we're living in a world where good ideas are not getting any playtime whatsoever, and take also add to the fact that, let's face it, we're not as educated as previous generations in terms of people being open to thinking in terms of anything longer than a 4-minute video. Right. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is that the reason I love what you have to say is you're on the front lines. You get these kids dumped in your lap and you find out, surprisingly, they're interested. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of them were. So if you could tell me about that experience, please.
Yeah. Well, we're there doing a whole bunch of stuff. Right. So like in one sense, we were there reinforcing critical race theory and progressivism. That was not fun. And the other sense, we were talking about, the catechism and theology, but really, you can tell when you're talking to like I do sales, and I also have to speak to groups of people, and you can tell just looking at them when they wake up to something that you're saying. And the things that tended to wake up the kids was, when you made those arguments against secular atheism, like you actually you attacked the people that are attacking them in their daily lives. You went after them, right? And you gave them the tools that they need to bring back to their world in order to defend your faith. Right, and those tools, unfortunately, those tools are not. They're not arguments from biblical authority.
No, it's irrelevant. That argument has absolutely no relevance whatsoever. Look, 70%, your mom made this point earlier, 70% of even Catholics who are in the pews don't believe in the real presence, right? You got to take that argument and get rid of it. You have to be able to talk to these guys on their own secular level. As a matter of fact, you were the guy that introduced me to Stephen Myers. I did a show on that a few weeks back when I talked about evolution. And it wasn't about comparing it apples to apples to the Bible. It was literally about tearing down the fact that Darwinism was wrong on two key fronts. So the point is, you have to know this stuff, or you can't possibly begin to discuss the concept of God to a world that could care less. So please tell me about that. You have a lot of experience on that. Take it away.
Oh yeah. So what I found, like something that was kind of easy, is usually, you know, the secular atheists, they don't necessarily spend a lot of time building their own faith or their own perspective in the world. They spend a lot of time just attacking us.
Tearing
it's
down.
It's a lot easier to tear something down or attack something than it is to build your own thing. So I just like to kind of do the reverse and attack, like, you know, some of their core values, which are moral relativism. I loved going after that. And then their other core value, I don't know if it's a value or something like that, but essentially the world that they live in is one where the absence of a creator is proven. It's self-evident. So like, if you believe in God, if you believe in a creator, then that's a silly thing. Like, it's not even defensible or anything like that. Yes. So I like to give the kids, you know, different ways of having a conversation with someone that are sort of compelling and didn't make them, like, that were logical and didn't make them feel silly having that conversation with someone else.
And tell us some of the ways you did that, because we talked about this earlier. And I thought they were fantastic, because again, for everybody at home, you can't possibly, all of a sudden educate somebody. They've had no catechism. They've had no great family experience. They've had fathers are supposed to be in church because they represent God. Fathers are supposed to. Fathers are represent. That is the first a child understands of the Almighty is their father. Yeah. Right. That's the first one where they get that ideation, and then all of a sudden, and so nobody's getting that at home. And so now all of a sudden you're thrown in a position of you're supposed to teach these guys about critical race theory, which is certainly really super important. And then all of a sudden, but now all of a sudden you decide. I love this story. You take them on their own merit, and we talked about it. So go, man. Tell them about how, because you've had success with this.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, I didn't make this stuff up. I listen to podcasts and stuff, but like, you know, the first thing I like to arm the kids with is just on the concept of moral relativism, right? Because they're told, or let's see, it's not more, it's
intellectual relativism,
things like that. Like, you're no better than, no society is better than any society. Who are you to say what's right and wrong? Who are you to judge, or something like that? And I just think, like, you know, hey, so it really helps out if one of the kids is a moral relativist, right? And they say something, and you can just approach them and say, okay, just a hypothetical here. Imagine that there's two societies. They're right next to each other, right? And then one of those societies encourages one of the most evil acts that you can think of, like human sacrifice, torture of children. Like, that's part of their culture. That's part of their society. They encourage it. And then there's a society on an island, like, you know, right nearby, and that society, encourages love, life,
respect
for each other,
right,
caring, things like that. Yeah. So you're telling me that in your mind, there's no difference between these two cultures. Like, one of them, essentially, the product of that culture is death and suffering, and then the product of this other culture is love and life, and life, like, being prolific. You're telling me that there's no difference between the two. And usually, unless the child is, like, just super argumentative and doesn't want to concede that the point is very logical, usually they'll bend the knee and go, okay, yeah. You go, great. Okay. So there's an objective moral world. There is a world in which there is right, regardless of whether you think it's right. Right exists. Yes. Like, goodness exists in a world. And then there's a world where evil, bad things exist, right? Okay, good. That's a start. Yeah, I like that. You know, and so you go, so you know, maybe we can actually analyze different cultures, different religions, and we can see which ones produce more suffering and death compared to other ones that produce more life and creation and love, and we can look at it that way. So maybe it's just into it. Like, I'll just say, I'll get out there and I'll say, I think it's intellectually lazy for someone to say that no society is better than another. They're just being lazy, and so that's a direct attack on their teachers.
That's correct. This is great.
And so I like finding little holes and poking holes in the secular atheist philosophy. They could bring it right back to school. How would you wouldn't you love it if one of those kids, in my mind, one of those kids is in class and raises their hand and goes,
Yeah.
teacher, and gives my example,
I just
it made me so happy.
And I'll bet you, because I actually find it very interesting, because I bet that has happened.
Oh,
Because,
God, I hope so.
And not out of any sort of intellectual curiosity, but out of annoyance. So you helped. You hit that one part. You hit that one part that grabbed them, that they love.
Yeah.
And I think, well, I'll say this observation. I would ask you, John, and just like, or I'll make a statement and tell me if you agree. To me, there's no question about it. The greatest civilization in terms of advancements of science, architecture, law has been Western civilization, originating in Jerusalem, and of course, but actually in Rome. Where Christ was named, but Rome, and from Rome it went to Europe, right? You'd agree with that, right?
Yeah, and that's why Howard Zinn and other communist, Marxist, atheists try and undermine Western civilization, because they're trying to, it's the fruit of the poisonous tree. And they're trying to make Western civilization look like a poisonous fruit. But when it's not, it's like,
that's exactly right. But the point I was trying to get to, and it's something that I see this so clearly, and I think most people do, or reasonable thinkers, is Western civilization is also called what? Christendom. This is a direct attack. The reason Western civilization was the greatest civilization, and I've said this a million times, is because of the marriage of faith and reason, right? If you just have faith, you have fanaticism and fundamentalism, right? If you just have reason, you have Freemasonry, nihilism, and utilitarianism. The reason Western civilization is so fantastic is that joining of faith and reason. And that's why for decades now, they're going after the patriarchy. Specifically the white male patriarchy, because that represents Christendom. And your argument, specifically your argument about relativity, honestly, I have to hand it to you, because I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, but also like when they leave, and we're trying to spread the faith here. That's what we're trying to do. Right. They can change more minds. They can open more doors with those arguments than they can bring some passage from whatever part of the Bible, and also reinforcing critical race theory. So.
Right. Well, what about? Well, take a step back. Go back to basics. I would think that it would be a challenge to believe in God for these guys. So, do you address that with them? Yeah.
So the other thing that I like to go after was, like, there's this self-evident, proven idea in the secular society that it's silly to believe in a creator or a God. And so, like, I just like to present like a plausible scenario. This gets a lot of attraction with the kids, is they all play video games. And so I'll ask them a question first, which is, hang on, I'm not practiced. It's been a while since I told this to kids, but essentially what I'll say is, okay, computers are getting smarter and smarter. A lot of IT professionals and computer science majors will tell you that we're right around the corner of creating artificial intelligence, basically consciousness inside of a computer.
Sure.
Do you think that that's plausible? And the kids will go, yeah, that's plausible. I could see that happening. And you go, okay, well, if that's true, then we could, in one of your video games where there's a character walking around in a 3D world, we could put that consciousness inside of that character. And so as the computer programmer sitting outside the computer, right, you could rewind time, you could fast forward time, you could make something appear right in front of that character, right? And you just told me it's very plausible that character, once artificial intelligence creates consciousness, we can put it in that character. How is that character any different? Like, it's fundamentally the same as what we believe as Catholics, which is we live in this universe, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a God that lives outside of space and time that created this universe and controls everything that goes on in the universe, right? And so we're conscious beings here, and there's that God there. And so how is it so silly to believe, like you just told me that someone who's an atheist.
That's a great point.
You just told me that you believe in that, almost that exact same scenario. So why is it so silly to believe that we've got a creator that created this world that we're in? And usually it gets the kids to wake up. And then what I'll tell them is like, in just as an analogy, that creator out of that, like that's outside the computer, that's outside the video game, he decided to come down and become one of the characters of us. Like he actually took his consciousness and he put it into one of those beings and it became one of the characters and lived in this world with us.
Why would that be so implausible?
Yeah.
I think that's brilliant. And I got to hand it to you because, and again, I mentioned this earlier, but it's worth going into. So you introduced me to this guy, Stephen Meyer, right?
Yeah.
Now, why is this relevant? And I did a whole show on this, and I don't think I told people you were the guy who gave me the idea. This is how we learn, right? We have interchange.
Yeah.
So you tell me about this guy, Stephen Meyer, and it is a fact, as explained in school, of Darwinism. That's just it. It's a fact. And you were the guy, and all of a sudden, so I had to really sit through. That was a lot of work, though. But you had said to me, that this guy Stephen Meyer, and you're very well versed in this. You sent me a couple of videos. I studied the videos, right? I was going to say I'll talk about it, or if you could. But the point is, the big point is that there are, I remember, two key elements that absolutely poke a fundamental flaw in Darwinism. Now, why is that important? Okay, the point is that, and they call it intelligent design. Because education has become so bad that you're not allowed to critically think. You're not allowed to ask questions, right?
Yeah.
Think of the last sickness that went around. Don't ask any questions.
Yeah.
You had a few things taken down because of that. So then I was like, this is fiat de facto. Darwinism's it. And all of a sudden you get this guy. You introduced me to this guy, and we just get this, and he comes up with two things like, wow, Johnny's right. This is really wild.
Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit. And did you get that far with the kids?
Yes, I definitely would when I get some free time because I love it. Darwinism is important to seculars because it explains the appearance of creation without a creator. That's why Darwinism is so important to secular people because pre-Darwin, usually like pre-Darwin, it was, I used the term self-evident a couple times.
Okay. It
was self-evident that there was a creator. Because when someone was like, do you believe in God or do you not believe in God? You could just go like, how could you not? Look at all of these things that just work. Like, of course there's a creator. There, like, if you look at human beings, if you look at animals, like this diverse array of life, how could there not be a creator of these things?
Yes.
Right. Like, are you out of your mind? And that's why secular people are so threatened when that idea goes away, which, by the way, any Catholic school that has not presented a textbook that maybe not like removes Darwinian theory, because there's been like 15 different Darwinian theories, but any Catholic school that doesn't like make sure that we teach intelligent design from Stephen Meyer is like what are we doing? Well, like, why have a Catholic school if we're not gonna? There's this thing that we know, like, that we're very confident isn't true. So, like, statistically, and Stephen Meyer goes into this. I use him as the expert. I'm not the expert, but he talks about this. He basically says, if you were to ask any evolutionary biologist, can natural selection and random mutation, can that mechanism explain how one species,
just one
species, any species, like let's say like I don't know, two species that are similar to each other, like all I can think of is chimpanzee and human or something like that.
Okay, sure.
A chimpanzee goes to be a human. You go to an evolutionary biologist, you say, can natural selection and random mutation explain this? And about 30% of them will say no. And the evidence, some more evidence that backs up that it can't explain it, is there's been like 10 or 12 new theories of evolution that have come out recently because everyone's trying to go, oh shoot, we got a problem here, guys. It ain't working. And how, like, the media is not going to talk about it.
Yes.
They're not going to educate kids in school. Like, it's a amazing scientific discovery that is for our benefit. It's like, hey guys, guess what? There's this great evidence that all of life, the only thing that can explain it is an intelligence wrote code and somehow got into the cells. Like, how could we not be teaching this in our Catholic schools?
Exactly. I got to tell you, and is Michael Hitchborn did a great, like, a couple times. Look, he's pretty well versed.
Hey, I just
right?
got this awesome message from Colin. Hey, Colin.
Hey, Colin.
Thanks.
Yeah. Hey, Colin. Thanks.
It makes me feel good.
Colin's always here. He's a big fan, and we appreciate you, Colin. Thank you very much. We appreciate all you guys tonight. Joanna O'Byrne, Lisa, the whole bit, my sister Joan. But so Michael Hitchborn, he did a great job explaining this to me, and he said to me, look, at the wedding at Cana, this is why this is not incongruous with our Catholicism. The wedding at Cana, it takes 30 years to ferment a good wine. Okay, great. So all of a sudden, the Blessed Mother asked Christ to get into his ministry a little early to save the day, because she's a mom and she was, and knew the repercussions they were out of wine, and it's a big no-no, right? Yeah. And so anyway, but he said to me, and I thought it was brilliant, if you had a scientist, it was going to look at that wine under an electronic microscope, that wine would have been 30 years old. Right? Do you understand what I'm saying? So what I find beautiful about, like Stephen Meyer and what you actually taught me was, there are miracles, and I get this, but what the beauty of this is, these arrogant idiots are running around saying like, well, this is just a fact, kind of like climate change. It's another one. Oh, yeah. The discussion's over. Just stop. Yeah, just stop. So,
don't get me started on climate change. I go on for a while.
Yeah, we can't. Exactly. But with that, I was just thinking to myself, the discussion's over. Really? Because this guy Stephen Meyer, who by the way started out not even as Christian, he had no skin in the game. So he shows up. He shows up in Texas, like to the Public School Association. Go, wow, I just got 100 peer-reviewed papers under my arm. These guys are gonna like kind of what you're saying. They can't wait to hear this. They went ballistic. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, then they did a media blitz at all the local, and literally they said, anyone who doesn't believe in Darwinism is an absolute moron. Okay, again, same sort of tactics, right?
Yeah.
And I just found it really funny because the point is, we're not talking religion. What we're saying is where you guys are hanging your hat on, which is the destruction of the God concept. This is why you're so important being here, because you're a great example of talking to the average kid. Because the average adult, by the way, is like this, and you need to be able to understand how to talk to them and to rationalize from an argument that is secular. And I think Lisa Evers made that point before. And by the way, guys, your Darwinian theory between the Cambrian explosion, is that correct, John? Is that the name of it? And the fact that it's absolutely impossible to have mutated from one cell to where we are today, given the amount of time. No question about it. It's a mathematically impossibility, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. When Darwin came up with this theory, he didn't know there were two. He didn't know a lot of things. There were two things that he really didn't know. At the time, people thought the universe was infinite, so it lasted forever. So evolution can take forever. Like random mutation, natural selection had an infinite amount of time to take place. And then it turns out, thanks to a Catholic priest, who first theorized in the Big Bang, it turns out that the universe had a beginning. And who was thinking that the whole time? We were. It turns out the universe had a beginning. It was 14 billion years ago. And then the Earth showed up 7 billion years ago. And then life formed 4 billion years ago. So guess what? We don't have infinite. We have 4 billion years. That's the time scale that we have. And we can at this point, Darwinian theory has been around for so long. You'd think that we'd have a pretty good understanding. Like we could compute. We could put the metrics inside of a computer, and we could say, okay, here's like either digital code or code that replicates DNA, and we're going to subject it to natural selective forces, and we're going to give it like a mutation function, and then we're going to speed up time because you can do that in a computer. Right. Yeah. And we could see how long it would take for a new functional code to sort of take place. Okay. And we know that it doesn't, you would need an infinite amount of time for that to work. And we only have 4 billion years, which sounds like a lot of time. It's not a lot of time.
No.
And the whole point of evolution is that Darwin thought that the Cambrian explosion, where all these different species came into being in a very short period of time, he thought that the fossil record, eventually we'd see all the fossils going back and back and back and show the slow evolution. Yes. And we've been digging up fossils for a really long time.
And he said that was right.
Yeah. Yeah. It happened like that.
Right. Right.
And so it's almost like there's someone outside of the computer, kind of coding things.
And by the way, for the folks at home, if anyone has any questions or anything, I'm looking very intently at the comments. So please feel free to ask anything from John or myself, or because we don't really pay that much attention to it when Hitchborn's here, because he usually has a lot more things to say, and I'm relying on John to carry the water here. So there you go. So, are you going to go back and teach again, John? Do you think?
Oh, if they ask me, I'm going.
Somebody said this. You ought to run for parish council. I think it was I forgot who said it, but somebody said you really, actually. I would have to agree with that person, because I think that you'd be their worst nightmare, and that would love that. I'll help.
Oh,
I'm kidding. But see, this is the problem. You're a married guy with a kid and trying to take care of a family, and these other guys, they have all sorts of time.
I'm out the door at 6. I'm back in at 6. Well, I'm making excuses. Never. You don't want to hear my excuses. I should do it.
Yes, but if you think about it, that'd be great. By the way, I loved your wife's comment to the deacon. Talk to John. That's hilarious.
Talk to John.
By the way, I can see, the deacon calls, and that's hilarious because I know her, and that's what she'd say. No, I'm supporting my husband, and go pound sand.
I had a combination of being like super mad and disrespected, and also like, I'm so glad you called my wife and got that response.
That's why I really love the story, and of course the folks at home don't know her, but like I do. But I can see her saying exactly that. Yep. Nope.
Yeah, she was like,
I didn't think twice.
Yeah, I agree with everything he says. So just talk to John.
Right.
Even if she didn't agree with me, that's what she would have
backed up. Right. I was just gonna say she would have backed up. Yeah, they should have called your mom.
I should call my mom.
That would have been a great conversation.
Call my mother, get me in trouble.
So let me just check here. The Church of Science Bill. Yep. And so listen, we are getting towards the end. We're going to cut it a little early today because I'm out of my element. We're running out of things to say. But I just wanted to really wanted to thank all you guys for showing up. John Goss, my nephew. I really want to thank you for showing up. I really enjoyed the conversation. I think everyone else did too. And if anyone has any comments about my nephew, I'd really appreciate it right now. But I think you were incredibly enlightening, and thank you so much and you do have a busy schedule, and I know your life, and God bless you, guys. It was great. John is a great ambassador, a brilliant example. This is from Colin again.
Oh, thanks, Colin.
Colin, you're such a great supporter. I see your name in all the comments on YouTube. God bless you all. All of you guys are. Joanna Byrne, thank you both. Thank you, Joanne. It's very kind of you guys. You guys always show up, and thanks for being Patricia Madden. God bless you, John. Hang in there. Oh, I think she was a teacher. I taught 34 years of religion at public school students. Wow. Oh man, Lisa Evers, thank you for your comments. But what I wanted to tell you guys was, but anyway, Johnny. And thanks for being nice to me. Hitch wasn't here this week. Thank goodness we could give him a day off. I'm telling you guys, I haven't seen the guy take a day off the entire time I've known him. So this is the least I could do. And sure, I'll be Ed McMahon. Fine. So Johnny, I love you. Thanks for coming, guys. I think we're gonna close with a prayer. And by the way, John, we're getting a lot of really great comments about this show, and people are really appreciative. So we're gonna do let's do it in English, okay? So that way you do the second half. If that's all right, John. Right? Yeah, the Hail Mary.
Hail Mary. Yep.
Yeah.
Let me do the first half.
Sure.
All right. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Amen.
Our Lady of Victory,
pray for us.
Viva Cristo Rey, everybody! And I want to thank you guys again. It was wonderful. Thank you so much for tuning in, you guys. God bless, and we'll see you next week.
God bless everybody. Thank you. Nice to meet all of you.
Monday night, don't forget General Quarters, the Man's March against abortion. And Johnny, my brother, we'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon, Uncle Jimmy.
Bye, guys. God bless.
Everybody.
Hang on.